The sea roared that afternoon, waves curling like fists ready to strike. Adam Richards had taken his twin daughters, Emily and Grace, to the beach for a simple escape. Money was tight, but the ocean was free, and the girls loved collecting shells. As Adam set up a blanket, he heard distant screams. His head snapped up. 2 boys, identical in size and shape, were thrashing in the surf, caught in a deadly riptide. Their cries were muffled by the crashing waves, but Adam didn't hesitate. He sprinted toward the water, his daughters calling after him, fear clinging to their voices. The current was fierce, pulling the boys further out as they flailed in terror. Adam plunged into the waves, muscles burning as the cold water slammed against him. He reached the first boy, wrapping an arm around his chest and urging him to kick. With his free arm, he grabbed the other, clinging desperately to his shoulder. "Hold on!" he shouted, though seawater filled his mouth. The boys clutched him with the strength of panic. Step by step, stroke by stroke, Adam fought the tide, pulling them closer to shore until finally his feet found sand beneath the swirling chaos. Emily and Grace were crying on the beach, waving frantically. Adam staggered out of the surf, the boys still clinging to him, coughing seawater and sobbing. He laid them gently on the sand, patting their backs until their breaths steadied. People gathered, murmuring about his bravery, but Adam only cared that the children were alive. "You're safe now," he said softly. The twins, barely older than his own daughters, looked up at him with tearful gratitude. Then a woman's scream cut through the noise, a cry so sharp it silenced the crowd. "My boys!" she shouted, rushing forward in desperation. The woman was striking, dressed in expensive but practical clothes that looked out of place in the sand. She dropped to her knees, gathering the twins into her arms, kissing their wet hair, crying openly. Adam stepped back, not wanting to intrude, but then her eyes lifted, locking onto his. For a moment, everything froze. Her face carried the elegance of power, but also the raw vulnerability of a mother who had nearly lost everything. "You saved them," she whispered, voice breaking. Adam shrugged awkwardly, water dripping from his clothes. Any father would have done the same. But her gaze said otherwise. The boys clung to their mother, still trembling. "He helped us, Mommy," one said, pointing at Adam. "We were so scared." The woman pulled her sons closer, then turned back. "I don't know how to thank you." Adam shook his head, brushing wet hair from his forehead. "Don't thank me. Just be glad they're safe." Emily and Grace tugged at his arm, whispering, "Daddy's a hero." He chuckled softly, embarrassed. The woman studied his daughters, then returned her gaze to him. "Please, at least let me buy you dinner. You and your girls, I insist." Her tone carried the weight of command. Adam hesitated. He wasn't used to generosity, especially from strangers who clearly lived in a different world. But her insistence was undeniable, and his daughters looked at him with wide, hopeful eyes. "All right," he said finally. "Dinner." Relief softened her face. "I'm Rebecca," she introduced, her voice steadier now. "And these are my sons, Daniel and David." Adam nodded. "Adam, and these are my girls, Emily and Grace." The children, bonded by shared fear, exchanged shy smiles. For the first time since the waves had swallowed them, laughter returned. The beach, moments ago filled with terror, now held the quiet beginning of something new. That evening, Rebecca sent a sleek black car to pick them up. Emily and Grace gawked at the luxury, whispering excitedly. Adam, in his worn jacket, felt out of place, but he reminded himself this was about gratitude, not appearances. The car swept them to a grand house overlooking the sea, all glass and light, the kind of place Adam had only seen in magazines. Rebecca greeted them at the door, now composed but still warm. "Please, come in," she said. Emily clutched Grace's hand tightly, their wide eyes darting around the chandeliered entryway. Adam exhaled slowly, reminding himself to stay calm. Dinner was unlike anything Adam had ever known. A chef brought courses that looked like art, though the children were happiest with simple pasta. Rebecca sat across from Adam, watching the way he gently cut Emily's food and laughed at Grace's silly jokes. "You're a good father," she said softly. Adam shifted uncomfortably. Compliments weren't common in his world. "Just doing my best," he replied. Her sons, sitting beside his daughters, were already chatting like old friends, bonding over school and favorite games. Rebecca noticed, her eyes softening. For the first time in years, her family table felt alive again. After dinner, the children played in the garden under the watchful eyes of staff, while Rebecca and Adam lingered on the terrace. The ocean stretched before them, calm now, as if apologizing for its earlier rage. Rebecca sipped her wine, studying him. "Most people wouldn't have gone in after them," she said. Adam shook his head. "Most people would have. I just didn't think. They needed help, so I went." She smiled faintly. "You say it so simply, but you risked your life. That matters." Adam glanced at his daughters, laughter echoing from the garden. "They're the reason I don't think. I just do." Rebecca admired his honesty. She had met countless people who spoke in polished rehearsals, each word calculated. Adam's words were raw, real. It intrigued her. "What do you do?" she asked. He laughed softly. "Whatever keeps the lights on. Deliveries, repairs, night shifts. Not glamorous, but steady enough." Rebecca's chest tightened. Here was a man who had nothing, yet gave everything to his daughters. Wealth surrounded her, yet she often felt empty. She set down her glass. "I'd like to see you again," she said boldly. Adam blinked. "Because I saved your sons?" "Because you remind me what matters," she answered. The children returned, breathless and happy. Emily tugged Rebecca's sleeve. "Can we come back?" she asked. Rebecca glanced at Adam, awaiting his response. He hesitated, then nodded. "We'll see." That night, when the car dropped them home, Emily and Grace couldn't stop talking about their new friends. Adam tucked them into bed, listening to their laughter fade into dreams. Alone in the quiet, he thought of Rebecca's eyes, the gratitude, the warmth he hadn't expected. He shook his head. She was a billionaire CEO. He was a struggling father. Their worlds didn't mix. But sometimes, fate didn't care about worlds. The next Sunday, Adam expected life to return to normal. But at the beach, Emily and Grace squealed when they saw Daniel and David waiting with Rebecca. The boys ran to greet them, laughing like they had known each other for years. Rebecca smiled at Adam. "I thought they deserved a calmer memory of the ocean," she explained. He raised an eyebrow. "And you?" Her smile deepened. "I wanted to see if heroes make good friends." Adam chuckled. "I'm no hero." Rebecca tilted her head. "Tell that to my sons." The children played in the sand, while two parents stood side by side, wondering what story was beginning. Over the next weeks, Rebecca found reasons to see them again. Sometimes it was a shared picnic, sometimes a school event her boys insisted the girls attend. Each time, Adam felt more torn. His daughters adored Rebecca, and she adored them. Yet he worried about what it meant about stepping into a world of wealth, of expectations, of scrutiny. Rebecca, for her part, found herself drawn to Adam's steadiness, his humility. He treated her not as a CEO, not as a billionaire, but as a person. And for the first time in years, she felt seen, not as a title, but as a woman. Emily and Grace began calling Daniel and David their brothers. Adam laughed at first, but the truth settled uncomfortably. Was this where their lives were heading? Could they truly blend two worlds so different? One night, as he tucked the girls in, Emily whispered, "Daddy, do you think Rebecca's lonely?" Grace added, "She looks happy when she's with us." Adam kissed their foreheads, unable to answer. Alone in the dark, he thought of Rebecca's laughter on the terrace, the way she had looked at him. He was falling into something he couldn't afford, but maybe, just maybe, couldn't resist. Rebecca's board noticed her distractions. Whispers of scandal began. "The CEO seen with a delivery man?" Reporters sneered. But Rebecca didn't flinch. When asked, she said calmly, "He's the man who saved my sons. That's all anyone needs to know." Adam read the headlines with dread, fearing what it might mean for his daughters. But Rebecca surprised him again, showing up at his door with her boys, smiling despite the storm. "They can say what they want," she told him. "I've built my life on numbers and power, but now I want to build something real." Adam had no words, only gratitude. One evening, Rebecca invited them to a gala, an event filled with power and wealth. Adam resisted, but Emily and Grace begged. At the gala, whispers followed them, curious eyes measuring. Adam felt out of place in a borrowed suit, but Rebecca walked proudly beside him, her hand brushing his arm. "Ignore them," she whispered. "Tonight, you're with me." The twins twirled on the dance floor with Daniel and David, laughter echoing louder than the music. For the first time, Adam realized Rebecca wasn't ashamed of him. She was proud. That realization both terrified and warmed him in ways he couldn't explain. That night, as the children fell asleep in the car, Rebecca leaned closer. "Adam," she whispered, "I don't care what the world thinks. I care about what feels right. And this," she gestured to the sleeping children, "feels right." Adam stared at her, heart pounding. He wanted to believe her. He wanted to believe that love could cross oceans wider than the one he had fought to save her sons from. Finally, he whispered back, "Then let's see where it goes." Rebecca smiled softly, her hand brushing his, and in that small touch, a new chapter began. The story of Adam, Emily, Grace, Rebecca, Daniel, and David wasn't just about rescue anymore. It was about rebuilding, about finding family in unexpected places. And those storms both in the sea and in life still loomed. One thing was certain. What had begun as a desperate fight against a riptide was becoming something stronger than either of them had imagined. Love, after all, was the greatest rescue of all. Rebecca's mansion became less intimidating with each visit. Adam's daughters, Emily and Grace, grew used to running through the halls with Daniel and David, their laughter echoing off marble floors. Adam, however, still felt out of place. He wore the same worn jacket and heavy work boots, standing awkwardly in a world of elegance. Yet Rebecca always greeted him warmly, her smile softening the edges of wealth. "You belong here more than you think," she told him once. He only shook his head, unsure how to believe it. But when he saw the children together, joy shining, he wondered. It wasn't long before whispers reached Rebecca's world. Colleagues at her company raised eyebrows, and glossy magazines speculated about her connection to the working-class hero. Adam read one article on the subway, his stomach twisting. He feared Rebecca would distance herself, retreating into the safety of her wealth. But instead, she showed up at his door that evening, holding takeout bags and smiling. "Ignore them," she said firmly. "They don't write our story. We do." Adam nodded, but deep down, he worried his simple life might ruin hers. Still, her presence filled his small apartment with unexpected light. The children's bond deepened. Emily and Grace began calling Daniel and David their other brothers. The boys, once timid, grew braver under the twins' influence. They raced through playgrounds together, shared secrets over ice cream, and invented games that only made sense to them. Rebecca often watched from a distance, tears in her eyes. "I thought wealth could buy happiness," she admitted to Adam, "but it only ever bought distractions. They're happy now because of you." Adam shook his head. "No, because of us. We gave them a family bigger than they ever knew." Her hand brushed his briefly, lingering. Rebecca's board of directors grew restless. "You're risking the company's reputation," they warned. "This relationship, this image, it doesn't align with our brand." Rebecca listened, then replied calmly, "I built this brand, and if it cannot stand beside kindness and love, then it isn't worth saving." Her words shocked them. Adam heard about the meeting later and was floored. "You'd risk everything for us?" he asked. Rebecca met his gaze. "For them," she corrected, nodding toward the children playing. Then, softer, "And for you." Adam felt his chest tighten. For a man who had always had too little, her devotion terrified him. One evening, Rebecca invited Adam and the girls to a charity gala. Adam resisted, feeling out of place, but Emily and Grace begged. "Please, Daddy, we'll be like princesses." They borrowed dresses from Rebecca's stylist, while Adam wore a suit that felt stiff and unfamiliar. At the gala, whispers swirled as they entered. Cameras flashed, capturing every detail. Adam felt his skin burn with discomfort, but Rebecca walked beside him proudly, her hand on his arm. "Ignore them," she whispered. "Tonight, you're with me." The twins twirled with Daniel and David on the dance floor, their laughter drowning out judgmental stares. The night wasn't without trouble. A businessman sneered as Adam passed. "Quite the fairy tale," he muttered. Adam clenched his jaw, ready to walk away, but Rebecca overheard. She stopped, her voice sharp. "Fairy tales are about truth, courage, and love. That's exactly what this is." The man fell silent, embarrassed. Adam looked at her in awe, realizing she wasn't ashamed of him, and she was proud. Later that night, when the children slept in the car, Rebecca turned to Adam. "Do you see now? You don't diminish me. You make me stronger." Adam swallowed hard, his heart pounding with unspoken words. The press, however, grew relentless. Paparazzi followed Adam to work, snapping photos as he delivered packages. His boss frowned. "This circus is bad for business," he warned. Adam considered quitting to protect his daughters, but Rebecca intervened. "You're not the problem. They are." She arranged for a private driver to help him, but Adam refused. "I don't want your money," he said firmly. Rebecca sighed. "It's not about money. It's about safety." Their arguments were quiet but heated, each side trying to protect the other. In the end, they compromised. Rebecca pulled strings for a quieter route, and Adam accepted. The children didn't notice the tension. To them, life was an adventure. They built pillow forts at Rebecca's mansion, roasted marshmallows in Adam's tiny kitchen, and shared bedtime stories in both homes. "We're one big family," Grace announced one night, and the others agreed. Rebecca listened from the doorway, her heart swelling. She had everything money could buy. Yet the chaos of laughter, the warmth of belonging was priceless. Adam watched too, realizing that for the first time since Lily's death, his daughters weren't missing something. They were whole. And maybe, just maybe, so was he. But challenges remained. One morning, Emily returned from school in tears. "They said we don't belong," she sobbed. Grace hugged her tightly, but Adam's blood boiled. Rebecca marched into the school the next day, confronting teachers and parents alike. "No child should feel less because of who their father is," she declared. Her authority silenced the room. Afterward, Adam thanked her quietly. "I should have handled it," he said. Rebecca shook her head. "No, we handle it together." It was a small moment, but to Adam it felt monumental. He wasn't alone anymore, not in fatherhood and not in life. The relationship grew stronger with each trial. Adam no longer saw Rebecca as unreachable. He saw her as a woman with scars of her own, healed by laughter and love. She no longer saw him as a rescuer, but as a partner who anchored her in reality. Their children mirrored that bond, blending into a single unit of joy. When Rebecca suggested a family trip to the mountains, Adam hesitated money, time, logistics. She smiled. "I'll handle the details. You just bring the heart." In the snowy hills, watching their children build snowmen together, Adam finally whispered, "I think I love you." Rebecca froze, her eyes shining. Then she smiled softly. "I've loved you since the beach." The confession felt like air after drowning. They kissed, gentle but certain, while their children laughed nearby, blissfully unaware of the gravity of the moment. That night, in a cozy cabin, Adam tucked Emily and Grace into bed beside Daniel and David. Rebecca watched from the doorway, tears in her eyes. "You've given me back my family," she whispered. Adam shook his head. "We gave each other a second chance." Outside, snow fell softly, covering the world in silence, as if blessing what had just begun. Months later, the bond was undeniable. Rebecca's board eventually relented, realizing her vision of compassion was reshaping the company for the better. Adam found steady work through Rebecca's philanthropic projects, not as charity, but because of his dedication and skills. Emily and Grace thrived, proud to call Daniel and David their brothers. The mansion and Adam's small apartment blended into one home defined by laughter. At the cemetery, Adam whispered to Lily's grave, "We're okay. The girls are happy, and I found someone who loves them like her own." He felt peace for the first time in years. Life wasn't perfect, nothing ever is. There were days of exhaustion, arguments about discipline, and chaos of 4 children under one roof. But through it all, Adam and Rebecca stood side by side. The children learned that family wasn't about wealth or struggle, but about showing up, protecting, and loving fiercely. One evening, as the sun set over the ocean, Rebecca turned to Adam. "I thought saving my sons was the miracle, but the real miracle was finding you." Adam smiled, wrapping his arm around her. "No," he said. "The miracle was us finding each other." And it was true.